Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar on Mastering Personio Recruiting. My name is Eva and I'm excited to show you how Personio Recruiting can help you streamline your recruiting workflows and drive better hiring outcomes for your team. In today's webinar, we'll be showcasing a quick overview of the recruitment tool. We will be focusing more specifically on how to create your first job posting, how to manage the job posting once it's live, as well as managing candidates through the process. To start off with, in Personio, the term job refers to a vacancy. The job is the focal point of all recruiting activities related to it, as you can see here. Before you can create and publish your first job in Personio, an admin will need to configure and enable certain features and permissions on the backend. I will now be walking you through how to create a job manually in the recruiting app. However, if you have Personio Workforce Planning app, these jobs can be created automatically. Please also note that the Personio Workforce Planning app is a separate app from the recruiting app. Now, to create a job manually, we will follow these steps. So within the recruiting app, we will go to the job section, and then we will click on Create a Job. We will then be prompted to fill in all the internal information. So as the job title, I will put Support Specialist. And here you can list the number of job openings available for this role, as well as the planned start date and position ID if available. So Support Specialist, planned start date. We can make November 1st. And then if there are any additional openings, you can click here. Then we can go to job details. There are some that are optional and some that are going to be mandatory. So if you have a different entity, you can always mention that here. So in this case, CS Demo. And department, I will choose customer support. Job type, customer support, client care. Occupation is call center, employment type permanent employee, contract type is full-time. Main workplace, I will choose London, and other workplaces are optional in case you have different office locations that this role can be based out of. So I will just choose a couple other ones here, Amsterdam and Stockholm. Then you can also choose the experience level. So in this case, it's going to be an entry-level role with about less than 1 year of experience. Under the salary information part, this part is optional to publish in order to publish the role, but it is recommended to please follow the local guidelines of where you are hiring, as each country has different regulations. And as mentioned, all mandatory fields need to be filled in before you can publish the job. And also note that some of the mandatory fields are predefined by job boards and they cannot be changed. So those would be, for example, the job type, the occupation, the employment type, and the contract type. Then we will move to the job description section. So here you'll have the option to fill in the job description itself. So to start off with, the default language is set to English, but additional translations can be created, and you would need to do it through the Manage Languages tab. And you would also need to translate all the required fields, and you can also see them on the career page on Personio. Then we will add the job name. So this is the job name that will be shown externally. So some companies do have a different name internally and can be beneficial using a more commonly known name externally. So in this case, I will call it Customer Support Specialist. Here are some, you can add additional keywords here that could be beneficial in terms of making it more easy to search. So customer support, client support, call center, and then you can fill in your mission, the profile you're looking for, and then also why us. This is an optional field as well. The About Us section is something that will be appearing on every job as a default, This section can be added and edited in the careers page section in the settings that the admin would have access to. Then we will move on to the application form. So in the application form section, you'll see that you can choose which questions and documents are required or relevant for the role that you're looking for. And this helps in terms of also easily identifying or screening candidates based on specific requirements. For example, if they need to have a visa required, or if their availability date is too far out, you would be able to screen that immediately. You can also toggle it on in terms of required or not required, or also delete the questions as you can see here. If you do not complete this section, Personio will apply your default application form that is also in the main settings. Then we will go to the hiring team section. So the purpose of this is to select relevant employees and their roles. So under the hiring process, we'll select a recruiting category. So for example, this one is a permanent employee role, and it will determine the process that will be used for this role. And this, we will also choose, for example, Adrian as a line manager. And we can also add Chris as our recruiter. And then we will click next. And as an option, you can see and use the automated screening feature to filter unqualified candidates. Before setting it up, it is important to comply with local work legislation and adhere to anti-discrimination practices. You can refer to our dedicated articles for a walkthrough in detail. The last section here would be the promotion section, where you can click on different platforms that are available. If you already have contracts with them, they would show here. I will show you this section a little bit in a short moment, but we will simply publish this role to see what it would, sorry, I need to fill these in. Mission 3 year, sorry. 1 year of experience working with customers, internships, working student. All right, and just double check what I have missed here. So, as you can see, if you are missing any mandatory fields, you need to fill them in before you can actually publish the role. So when you are clicking publish, you'll also be prompted to, of course, preview it, but then also any auto postings will be listed here so you can easily see which job boards this role would be posted to. All right, so now that it is posted, we will see the role here with all the details that I have just inputted. Okay. Then in the situations where you want to create a job that is similar to a previous one, you can simply duplicate the existing job. Personio will add all associated information to the new job. So in order to duplicate a role, what we will simply do is click on the relevant role that we want to duplicate. So in this case, we will duplicate the customer success manager role. Then you can click on the 3 dots in the top right and click duplicate job. Then you will be prompted to essentially fill in the details. 1 second in our draft here. So in the description, you'll see that it says a copy of Customer Success Manager. So you would simply go in and edit the details. So for example, Customer Success Manager, German speaking, job details, internal information. You can always change all of this to make sure it's relevant, and you can save as a draft in case you need to go back and change these details on a later date. All right. Then in terms of promoting jobs, I will show you our SEO marketing manager position. So once the job is published, it will automatically show up on your careers page. So in order to see that link and not have to go to your own careers page specifically, you can click on the role and then you can simply find the career page link here. So we will open it and we can see what it would look like here. The candidates would then also be able to see apply for this job, and then the form would look as if based on those application questions that we had requested. In order to attract a higher number of candidates, it is recommended to post the job on external job boards. So within the promotion tab, you would then be able to see any of the external job boards that you have contracts for, but also Personio's posting bundles, where you can have different options in terms of them being more cost savings on specific job boards, and they're also tailored to your needs. And we do also work with a specific partner who would make sure that all your jobs are posted in a more smoother fashion. If you have existing contracts with external job boards, you can also store them in Personio, and Personio will not charge you to post on these job boards. You can also set up auto job posting, which is a feature on the account level and not on the job level. This means the admin will need to set it up, but this allows you to publish all of your jobs to a range of job boards for free in order to reach a wider reach, and automates the process of posting on the selected platform. And in case you also need to manually add any specific tracking links to know where your candidates are coming from, you can do so through this, where you would select the channel. So for example, let's say they are coming through Stepstone, and we would be able to create a link, and you can copy this link and post it into the job portal itself. This is also a great way to track in case you are using external recruiters or agencies and be able to track their performance. And it is also important to note that if your job has multiple locations, the main location appears by default on the job posting. Additional locations will follow, separated by commas. Each job board also supports multiple locations differently, and it is important to understand how those job boards look. If changes to a job need to be made, you can simply click on the edit button and to edit the metadata, or click on the description tab here and click on edit. Changes will be made reflected shortly on the careers page, but can often take some time on external job boards. Next, we will look into managing candidates. So once your job is live and you start to receive applications, you are able to review and manage them under the Applications tab. So we will go here. And at the top of the list, you can see the pipeline. So with this pipeline, it is divided into the respective recruiting stages that have been assigned to this role. This allows you to see at a glance the number of candidates in each stage, and clicking on a specific segment. So for example, clicking on application screening will then show you all the applicants in that stage. You can then also see the different columns and attributes. So this is for easy visibility. So each column corresponds to a different attribute. For example, the name, the application date, the stage that they're in. Also additional things that we can add in, like experience, to make it easier to filter candidates or also better understand how relevant their profile could be. You can always rearrange the columns as well, simply clicking on columns and then moving things around so that the visibility matches what you want to see in the order that you want. And the first column is always frozen by default, so it is recommended that the name attribute stays as the first column. You can also sort most columns either in alphabetical or chronological order. So for example, you might sort the experience column in order to order candidates by years of experience. So So for example, ascending. And then you can then also click the name of the respective column to sort the order for each of these. In the updates column, as you can see here, you can find any action items for the relevant application. Each action item is represented by an icon. Click on the icon to go to the action item, for example. And in this case, we can see here that it says there's an unread message or unreplied message, and that there's the notification here that we still need to respond to this message. Then with the different filters, you can help, or you can easily narrow down the information based on certain system and custom attributes. Only custom attributes that are relevant for the specific job will be available. So we can add specific rules. So for example, you can bind multiple filter rules to narrow the information further. For example, you could show the combined rules of channel contains LinkedIn. So let's go to channel contains LinkedIn, and then also add an additional rule where we want to look for tags that contain high potential to only show the candidates that meet both of these criteria. We can then also perform bulk actions, and this can be done directly from the different stages here, or also just the application tab in general. And this is particularly useful if you need to perform tasks in bulk. You can simply check each individual name by clicking it on the side, especially if you have multiple. But in this case, for example, we only have 2, so we can simply check off the box at the top left here. And then you can simply choose the task that you would like to do from the menu bar. So either we can disqualify candidates, we can move them to a different stage, we can also forward them to an individual for review. Also, we can email or delete or anonymize, move to job, etc. And then clicking on, I'm just going to quickly remove these filters. Then you can see that these are defaulted views. So all applications will be generally selected, but default views are the same in terms of being able to help you automatically filter for a specific area that you're looking for. So being able to easily identify new applicants or candidates where you have overdue applications that still need to be reviewed, and making it easier for you to manage high volume positions. You can always also create custom views, and also note that only custom views are the ones that you'll be able to manage, so deleting them if you feel like you have too many. And other functions that you can do in the application stage would be, or the application view here is, for example, creating an application. So this is particularly useful in cases where someone has maybe applied in a different way, or maybe the application isn't showing correctly and you're able to manually create the application for them. Then you can also view additional job information. So if you click on an individual, you'll then be prompted in being able to see their CV, also any additional details, but also the different tasks that have already happened in that profile. And then you can always search as well in case you need to look for a specific individual, or you only remember the individual's name. All right. Then I will also now show you how to actually schedule an interview. So once you've found an interesting candidate or multiple candidates that you'd like to speak to, you can move them to the next stage of the interview process, either through their candidate profile or through the bulk actions I just showed you. So in this case, we have identified that we would like to speak with Philomena. And I will move her to the telephone stage. So once the candidate is in the right stage, then we'll be scheduling the interview. So if you've pre-aligned on a date and a time, you can already manually create the interview using the following steps. So either clicking on the interviews tab or through schedule interview button here. You can then choose the type of interview. So in this case, I will do a phone interview. I will select who will be speaking with the individual. In this case, I want Chris, who is the recruiter, to be speaking to the individual. And we've agreed on a date and time of September 18th at 12 p.m. And then here you can also fill in any interview details. For example, as mentioned, this is a phone interview, so we can put in telephone interview. If there is a specific location that needs to be mentioned, you can always put it here. If you have any specific feedback forms or evaluation forms that you want the interviewer to fill in, you would put that in here as well. So in this case, we'll do a feedback phone interview. We can set reminders to also make sure that interviewers are prompted to fill it in case they don't do so immediately. And any additional notes for the interviewer, we can also put it here, which will then be attached to the calendar invite only for the interviewer. Once that is all set up, we will then click Invite Interviewers. Chris will automatically get informed, but in order to inform Philomena, we will actually need to email it to her. So in this case, we can click on Email Interview Invite. This is, and then we can use any set templates we have created. And in this case, it will pull the information that we have set. So if you have your email template set up in a way where you are able to pull in all the information that you want, it will show up automatically. And then as you can also see, in this case, with some test interviews scheduled, you can see the different statuses as well. So in this case, the one I have just scheduled would say it's been scheduled because it's going to be an interview that's in the future. And then I have a canceled interview because a previous interview was canceled. And then we would also, for example, be able to see any completed interviews that have been done in the past. And for some reason, if let's say the interview needs to be scheduled or canceled or rescheduled, we can simply click on cancel this interview using this button. Or we can also click on edit and change the details in case, for example, we need to reschedule to a different date. An alternative to scheduling interviews is to use Personio's Smart Scheduling Interview feature, which then makes it easier to find a suitable time for interviewers and candidates. This feature is only available if you have integrated your company calendar, so Google Calendar, Microsoft Workplace 365, or Microsoft Exchange with Personio. Using this integration, candidates will only see available dates and times that match your external calendar and your interview calendar, which can be configured in personal settings. So in order to send a link to a candidate, we will follow the steps so that you don't need to manually schedule and they can find the best suitable time slot. So in this case, we will go to Philomena's profile again, and then we will click on Schedule an Interview. And we can do a phone interview again. And this time we will also set it up with Chris. And then we can also essentially set up a scheduling link and then choose the duration of the call. We can choose the date range that we want Philomena to be able to select from. So if we want to limit it to only, for example, a week, we can choose the dates here. We can do start time increments just so that they can see maybe more options or less options. And then also setting buffer times in case there are back-to-back meetings. We want to make sure that our interviewers are able to also maybe have a breather time. You can then also select any email templates to do an automatic email confirmation. Once you've created that link, you'll then see that it's set up here, and you can either edit or remove it, and then fill in the respective details again. And then we will email the candidate. So in this case, you would just simply click on the template again. And in this case, I don't have a template set up yet, but please select on time using the following link. And then you can insert the scheduling link here and then click send email. And then once you click on send email, the scheduling link sent will appear so that you know that this link has already been sent out. Another option would be that if, let's say, we already know Philomena's availability and we know that Chris is also going to be the interviewer, we can also find a slot in Chris's calendar. As you can see, we can see that he has a blocker on Saturday. But for example, in previous weeks, we could see that he was maybe a little bit busier. So based on this, then we can find a suitable time slot and block it in his calendar, and then be able to essentially select slot and then fill in the respective details again, inviting the interviewer and then confirming it with the candidate. All right. So then once an interview has actually been scheduled, then we would, of course, want to complete evaluation forms. And this is also something that is recommended to do as soon as possible, just to make sure that there are no biases, but also that interviewers don't forget any important details. So then in this case, I will quickly show you what it would look like. I'm going to change this to a previous date, just so we can see the... All right, so in that case, the interview has now been completed, and you'll see that feedback requests are essentially pending now. So in situations where you do have a form created, the interviewer will be prompted directly through their email or also through the calendar invite. But in situations where maybe it is not showing up correctly, you can also manually put that in, where you can then fill in the form and put in, for example, what your impressions of the candidate are, the star ratings, any quantitative and qualitative feedback can be put in here. And then you can also share any key takeaways. For example, if it's a quick summary and you would like to move the candidate forward, or maybe you want to reject the candidate. And also you can put in any overall impressions here and then submit the details. It'll also then prompt the individual saying that once you submit the evaluation, you're not able to edit the feedback, so that they should double check the feedback before making that submission. And then you can see all the details here. I will also show you what it would look like if you have multiple interviews. So for example, with John Doe here, we can see the previous interviews he had and also the details that were submitted and what it would look like. It's also important to note Personio will save your evaluations automatically while you are working on them, and this data is stored in your browser. So this way you can retrieve your work in case you accidentally close the tab where the evaluation is in progress. All right, and then lastly, I will show you what it looks like when you want to move a candidate to the offer stage. So you would simply move the candidate to a different stage. So in this case, John has already been moved to the offer. But I will go to another candidate. 1 second. So for example, we want to move Bernetta to an offer stage. We would click on Move to Offer. And once you've moved them to an offer stage, you can then select how you'll be making the offer. So you can choose making an offer with a contract document. So this means having templates set up, contract templates set up where you can then easily fill in the details and it will automatically populate the contract for you. And then you would be able to send it over for e-signature if that's also set up. Or you can also send an offer with no contract document and just essentially creating some details. But for example, if you have a template set up, this is what it would look like. And then you would simply be able to fill in any specific details. Some of these details will already be automatically populating from the candidate's application profile. So in case, for example, they used a nickname, it's important to make sure that you double check and put in the legal first name. All right. And then once the contract has been signed or the offer has been accepted, you would simply mark the candidate as hired, and then the onboarding process would then begin. So, and As I've shown you today, Personio really helps you streamline your recruiting workflows, attract great talent for your organizations, while also giving you a clear overview of performance. Thank you for joining today. We hope you feel empowered to use Personio Recruiting to hire your great talent for your organization. You can always check out our Help Center for more information on all aspects of recruiting, from setting up the tool, creating your first job, various job boards, contracts, and documents, to also hiring your first employee. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to our support team via in-app support. Have a great day, and thank you so much.